There is this claim made by the Russians that the Ukrainians are planning or have been planning to use a dirty bomb in the conflict. So what is a dirty bomb? So let's take a look at the tweet sent out by the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and let's see what it says. So this is what the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs claimed. This is what the Russian government claimed. Uh, this is it says that the Russian Defense Ministry has discovered that according to the information at hand, two organizations of Ukraine have been directly ordered to create a so-called dirty bomb, and the work is at its concluding stage. Yes, and obviously people have expressed skepticism about these claims and so on, but let's take a look at what this is. So it says that Ukraine has capabilities, it has a capacity to create a dirty bomb. It has various sources of radioactive substances, storage pools, radioactive waste storage facilities, scientific research reactors, and it says that it's using primarily two materials, uranium 235 and plutonium 239. That's one claim, and there's another tweet as well. Let's put that out also on the screen. Where is the other tweet? Right here it is. Let me put it out, give me a second. So it says that the Kiev regime plans to camouflage the explosion of this kind of ordnance under an extraordinary effect of Russian low power nuclear warhead that contains highly enriched uranium in its charge. So essentially, the Russians are saying that the Ukrainians will detonate this kind of bomb, and then they will say it was a Russian nuclear warhead that has been exploded by the Russians. And yeah, it goes on further to put out these what it calls evidence of radiation hazardous facilities of Ukraine, and so on and so forth. The Kharkov Institute of Physics and Technology, and various other things. So it says that these facilities or establishments in Ukraine have the capability to create thousands of tons of this radioactive waste and other substances per year. So essentially, they're saying that Ukrainians are very much capable of carrying out this sort of thing, this sort of operation, a dirty bomb, right? And what happened is that the Russian defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, he has had no communication with the West for many months, essentially ever since the Ukraine conflict began. So he has had no communication with the West for many months, and then overnight he goes and he communicates with the American, his American counterpart, his British counterpart, his French counterpart, even his Turkish counterpart, right? Because Turkey is also a member of NATO, which is under the US sphere of influence. So all of a sudden, on the same day or in just a couple of days, he goes on and communicates with all these people: the Americans, the British, the French, the Russians, the Turks. I beg your pardon. And we also know that he has communicated with the Indian Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, as well. And in these communications with the West, essentially, Sergei Shoigu went ahead and laid out what he says the Russians have discovered, that the Ukrainians, on behalf of the West, essentially, are planning to carry out a dirty bomb operation in this conflict. So that's what that's what Russia has claimed. And like I said, he also had a conversation with okay, let's put out one more tweet by the Russian foreign ministry, and then we will put out the communication by India as well. So the Russian foreign ministry, there's a third tweet they have put out. It is a statement by Maria Zakharova, who is the spokesperson there. Reliable sources indicate that Kiev is planning a provocation with the use of a dirty bomb. The purpose of this heinous provocation is clear: to accuse Russia of using a weapon of mass destruction. Kiev is planning to detonate a dirty bomb by disguising it as an unauthorized burst of a low-yield Russian nuclear bomb with enriched uranium. The West should not be measuring the width of the red line. That's what Maria Zakharova has said. So this is the allegation that the Russians have made. Now let's put out what India has said, the Indian statement. This is in response. This is as a consequence of the conversation that Sergei Shoigu had with the Indian Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh. It says telephonic conversation between Raksha Mantri Shri Rajnath Singh and Defense Minister of Russia, Mr. Sergei Shoigu. Raksha Mantri Shri Rajnath Singh held a telephonic conversation with Mr. Sergei Shoigu on October 26 at the latter's request. During the conversation, both ministers discussed bilateral defense cooperation as well as the deteriorating situation in Ukraine. Defense Minister Shoigu briefed the Raksha Mantri on the evolving situation in Ukraine, including his concerns about possible provocations through use of a dirty bomb. Shri Rajnath Singh reiterated India's position on the need to pursue the path of dialogue and diplomacy for an early resolution of the conflict. He pointed out that the nuclear option should not be resorted to by any side, as the prospect of the usage of nuclear or radiological weapons goes against the basic tenets of humanity, and both ministers agreed to remain in touch. This is the statement put out by India, by the Indian government. Right? So this is what's happening. The Russians have publicized to the whole world, they've broadcasted all over the world that the Ukrainians are planning to, or are hoping to, or are in the process of uh, they want to detonate a dirty bomb. So let's understand what a dirty bomb is. What is a dirty bomb? Is there a dirty bomb as opposed to a clean bomb or any such thing? So dirty bomb is essentially one type of a weapon of mass destruction. It's a weapon of mass destruction. A dirty bomb, essentially, it can come in three different varieties. It can be a radioactive dirty bomb, it can be a chemical dirty bomb, or it could be a biological dirty bomb. So a dirty bomb is essentially a conventional bomb that is laced with radioactive or biological or chemical materials. So when a dirty bomb explodes, it scatters these materials over a certain area, right? Uh, so in the case of the radioactive dirty bomb, which is the matter under consideration, it will be a regular conventional bomb, maybe a very powerful conventional bomb, which is laced with a whole lot of radioactive material. So what kind of radioactive material could be used? So typically when people in academia, in geopolitics, etc., when people have discussed dirty bombs, they have typically discussed it from the perspective of terrorism. The terrorists could somehow obtain some radioactive substances and then mix that with a regular bomb and then use it on, well, whatever target they intend to contaminate, right? Now, where would terrorists obtain such radioactive sources from? Well, we know that radioactive sources are used widely in medicine, for instance, in academia, and also in various industries. Right. So, for instance, when I was a student studying nuclear physics, if you are studying nuclear physics at the master's level, at the university level, then in the lab you get to handle radioactive substances, radioactive samples. So, I think it. Well, I will not mention what radioactive substances I as a student I handled, but there are various. It will not include uranium or plutonium. It will include certain other radioactive elements. So if you want a list of what radioactive substances could be used in a dirty bomb, you have cobalt 60, which is a half life of about 5 years. You have cesium 137 that has a half life of about 30 years. Then you have americium 241, which has a half life of more than 400 years. So that is dangerous. Then you have iridium 192 that has a very brief half life of 74 days. Then you have strontium 90, which has a half life of about 30 years. You have californium 252, which has a half life of about 900 years. And then you have the usual suspects: uranium 234, 235, 290, 238. And we also have plutonium 238. Uh, uh, Plutonium. We also have plutonium. I forget the number, but it's plutonium. There are two isotopes of plutonium, which are both extremely hazardous. They are extremely toxic as well as radioactive, right? So typically, in a dirty bomb, you would use any of these things, but if you use plutonium, that could be very dangerous. And the Russians are claiming that the Ukrainians intend to use either uranium or plutonium or both, right? Depleted uranium and plutonium 239, I think that's what they said. So plutonium 238 is the weapons grade plutonium, and the spent 239 is what they don't use in nuclear weapons, but it's still radioactive. So let's say you use plutonium. You have a very powerful conventional explosive, right? A very powerful conventional bomb. And then you add in, let's say, let's say hypothetically a kilo of plutonium dust in the form of, let's say, plutonium oxide, right? And then you detonate it over whatever target you intend to contaminate. So this 1 kilogram of plutonium dust that is going to be thrown around it is enough to give cancer to nearly 5 million people. 1 kilogram of plutonium oxide dust. So that's how deadly it is, and it's going to render the entire area wherever the contamination happens completely unlivable. It's almost impossible to get rid of the contamination. I mean, there are various means and ways you can use, but it's essentially contaminated for a very long time, and so on. So that's what a dirty bomb is. You can use radioactive waste materials, you can use any of the various isotopes that I specified, and so on. So that is what a dirty bomb is. And if you explode this over, let's say, well, wherever you do it, it's going to be a disaster, a genuine disaster, environmental catastrophe. It's going to give cancer to lots of people. It's going to render the soil unusable for agriculture. It's going to contaminate and kill animals. It's going to destroy forests. Those forests, you cannot go there, right? It's going to leach into the groundwater. It's a disaster. It'll contaminate rivers or ponds or lakes or whatever it is. It's something you never ever want to see happen, right? So that is what the Russians are alleging, and it appears that they obtained this information apparently by tapping undersea data cables. So you have data cables that carry various kinds of data, internet communications, and so on and so forth. These data cables are laid on the bottoms of the oceans, right? And that's so the Russians, obviously, they have the capability to tap these data cables either via submarines or via surface ships or whatever. But they have apparently succeeded in tapping data cables and gaining access to various communications, and that's how they apparently got this information, right? So the Russians are saying the Ukrainians are planning this sort of thing. As soon as the Russians declared this, the Ukrainians made a counterclaim that the Russians themselves are planning to do this, and they want to lay the blame on Ukraine. So both sides are accusing the other of a false flag operation, right? A false flag operation is an operation in which what's a false flag operation? Let's say I'm fighting a war. Let's say a nation is fighting a war, and they want to accuse the other side of something terrible. So they will conduct a military operation against themselves, a limited military operation against themselves, and put various kinds of false evidence that makes it look like the other side has carried it out. And then you blame them of doing terrible things, and then you can take certain actions based on these claims. That's a false flag operation. So the Russians are accusing Ukraine of doing this. The Ukrainians are accusing Russia of doing this. So now what do we make of this? So let's say something like this happens. All you have to ask yourselves is, what does each side gain by doing this? What does Russia gain? Let's say Russia carries out this sort of thing, a dirty bomb operation. What will Russia gain from this? It will gain international opprobrium. Everybody in the world will condemn Russia, right? And if this happens, if the Russians do this, then even those nations that have been supporting Russia in various ways, either directly or indirectly, or by refusing to condemn the war in Ukraine, even those nations will be forced to distance themselves from Moscow. So if Russia carries this out, it's a disaster for Russia, right? Now, what does Ukraine gain? What does the West gain if something like this happens? First of all, Ukraine will essentially gain indefinite and unlimited support from the West, from the US, because they are the big victims. Russia carried out a nuclear dirty bomb attack on Ukraine. Obviously, they will gain unlimited and indefinite support from the West. It will help when it comes to domestic politics in the US. It will help Republicans regain control of Congress in the upcoming elections. Yeah. Because, well, they will say, see, we told you so. This is what the Russians have been doing. They are the bad guys, and you do not listen to us. So support us, vote for us, and so on. So it could help the Republicans regain control of Congress in US domestic politics. The third main consequence, it will pressurize China and India to distance themselves unconditionally from Russia. The Chinese have refused to condemn Russia. They have been purchasing Russian oil to some extent, and so on and so forth. Right? Then they are adopting this official position of principled neutrality. India has refused to condemn Russia. India has said, we need to resolve this diplomatically and so on. But it has not outright condemned Russia, and India has been buying enormous amounts of Russian oil, discounted Russian oil. India has been, ever since the conflict started, India has been buying, let's say, about 50 times more oil than it was buying previously. And this has essentially helped Russia not fall into the Chinese embrace and not fall prey to Chinese hopes of turning Russia into a vassal state. India's support has essentially saved Russia from annihilation. So if the Russians do such a thing, it will exert incredible amounts of pressure on China and India to unconditionally distance themselves from Russia, and that will be the end of Russia if that happens. Right? And this sort of if this sort of attack happens, it also gives the United States the pretext to directly intervene or get involved in Ukraine, boots on the ground. So this essentially isolates Moscow completely. It sets the stage for Moscow's eventual destruction, economically at least, right? And one other consequence of this, or benefit of such an attack, is it gives the prospect of big profits to big pharma from treating millions of affected Europeans, right? So if you look at the benefits, the pros and cons of this, then it's very clear that this is not in Russia's interest. Detonating a dirty bomb on any part of the world, in Ukraine or wherever else, is not in Russia's interest. It is entirely against Russia's interests, and it is entirely in favor of Ukraine's interests, or Kiev's interest, or the West's interests. So that tells us where this, if the Russians are right, and if they have actually discovered a plot to detonate a dirty bomb, then I think it's very clear, if this allegation is true, then it's very clear who benefits from this. The Russians certainly do not benefit from this. They will lose the support of China and India, and even Iran may be forced to break off communications and ties with Russia. It will isolate Russia completely. It would be madness for Russia to do such a thing. So now that Russia has publicized this, it becomes more difficult for whoever wants to do this to do it, and it may yet happen. It may yet happen. I hope it never ever happens. I hope that nobody ever uses nuclear weapons or dirty bombs or anything like this in the future ever again. But we are living in bad times. We're living in dangerous times. In geopolitics, it's not about good or bad, right or wrong or anything. It's about what I gain from it. And it's very clear who stands to gain from the detonation of a dirty bomb in this conflict. It's definitely not Russia. Russia stands to lose all the gains it has made. It would be complete and utter madness for Russia to resort to a dirty bomb tactic. So that's what I have to say about this. If you have any rebuttals or any other perspective that you would like to give, then after the live stream is over, you can put that in the comments. I would be happy to see all perspectives and maybe learn something. But from my analysis, it doesn't make any sense for Russia to resort to a dirty bomb tactic.